the FNL Network talk show.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FNL Network talk show. I am your host, Diana. We got a packed house today. We got David, Corey, Brana, Jeff, and Eugenia. How are you guys doing today?
Really good.
Great.
Good to see you all. I want to dive right into our first topic because I was actually watching this and it completely shocked me when it happened. So I had been following the Alec Baldwin Rust trial for those of you at home who need a little recap. Pretty much this had to do with weaponry on set and safety. And unfortunately, the cinematographer Helena Hutchins was tragically shot by Alec Baldwin. The armorer who supplied the prop guns, she was sentenced to 18 months, I believe, back in March or April. So now Alec was on trial for involuntary manslaughter. And 3 days into the case, it was dismissed. And it confused me at first because I'll admit I was working, but I just had it up on in the background. So once I was done with my job, I really dug deep into this, and it's so interesting. The defense argued that the prosecution buried interest because someone had brought the bullets that had matched what Helena was killed with, and the prosecution decided, oh, this is not evidence to the case, and they kind of filed it under a different case number, and the defense is saying they're burying the evidence, this isn't a fair trial, so motion to dismiss, and it was dismissed with prejudice, meaning that Alec Baldwin cannot be brought up on these charges again. So I want to know, do you agree with this verdict, or I don't even know if you can call it a verdict, or this result, this outcome? Have you been following the trial in the case? What do you think? I mean, it's bad to speculate, but what do you think could have been done to prevent this? Are we working on preventing these things since we're all kind of in the industry? Eugenia, I'll kick it over to you first. It's been a while since I've spoken to you.
Hi, Diana. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I have, it drives me crazy, this case, to be honest with you. I recently worked with one of the cinematographers who was on the movie.
Wow.
And we were doing an indie movie, and he said, the production didn't have enough budget. So everything was low budget. Time was not considered. I don't know if it was SAG like that. You probably can research a SAG deferred. There's all kind of ways to not pay artists or anybody on set, and the crews, don't have enough time to sleep or even, be considerate. I mean, for me as an actor, we always have a protocol. It is a very standard protocol where nobody can put a gun in front of anybody else's face. And I work with Terran Tactical, who are the best people in the industry and train, it is very standard. You have a meeting, even before, COVID, before this happened, you have a meeting with everybody in the crew and you say this is safe check. You never point a gun at anybody. There is a person who is assigned to do that. And that's the only person who can handle the gun. The actors are not supposed to play with the guns. They're not allowed to be around the guns. Plus the producers. I mean, somebody who is involved in that position. This is next level, I think I'm with her family. I just think it is terrible what happened, how is the justice system run in US. I think there's so much more investigation to be made into that. It is unfortunate that the criminal justice is, a leeway of, it's not a law. It just, there's a lot of points that you can get off with that. And, unfortunately, celebrity and narcissism runs away in this country, as you can see,
Yeah.
And human life has no point. It is terrifying to work in this business. Honestly, I work with the cinematographer and we were doing a lot of fight scenes and there was no supervision on that set. And I was, I work a lot in stunts, and a lot of times they do roles that involve guns or being a spy or anybody, who is in that position. And there's absolutely no supervision on set. So I have to be responsible for my own, safety. And that's really unfortunate in Hollywood. I think there's a call to be made for anybody in any workplace to at least, be responsible for your actions. It is very unfortunate. I think Alec Baldwin has to take responsibility. I think there should be another filing, another lawsuit, and something else to come up after that. I'm really, really angry at this point.
I should mention, I should have clarified, he can't be tried criminally for it, but there's still the civil lawsuit. So at least the family can get some like monetary relief that way. Of course, that doesn't bring back the person who was lost, but hopefully that does give them a little bit of justice. But you're right that, better safety precautions should have been taken. He was a producer in the movie and they couldn't use that in the court case. I don't remember why the judge ruled on that, but it's fascinating. I think it's just, like you said, a tragic event. And then just to see the prosecution kind of come at it the way they did and in a shifty way, it speaks to our justice system, and it's very flawed. So highlighting, yeah, go ahead.
He's shooting a reality show. You guys, that just shows me the sickness, the mental sickness of whatever is happening,
Oh, he is?
Hollywood. Yes, in the middle of it.
I had no idea. That's insane. Yeah, no, that's crazy. There's a lot of unfortunate and interesting, curious things that were brought up by this case and then the outcome. David, let's bring it your way. I feel like you'll have a lot to say about this.
Well, I don't know if I have anything of substance really, other than the fact that I was never really a big, huge fan of his. And so I thought that, okay, finally justice, somehow he's going to get in trouble for it. But what I've seen, I was reading a report where the lead prosecutor dropped out before it started due to the fact that she had seen a lot of information that wasn't going to be used as evidence, and it just felt like she didn't want to be part of something. She had said something to the effect that her morals and her duties both aligned together, and because she was finding out in the very beginning that things were not going to line up, she dropped the case, or she dropped out of it.
Yeah.
And I did read another report on it that one of the experts that were there said that there was plenty of times where they'd seen Alec Baldwin playing with the gun, pointing at somebody, had somebody stand in front of it. And like Eugenia said, on any kind of set, you never point a gun. It doesn't even matter if you're on a set, even in, at a shooting range, you never point a gun at anybody. And there's a lot of military movies that are made out there, Saving Private Ryan. There's guns everywhere, weapons everywhere. There's ballistics everywhere. There's always people watching how that's being done. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's even a cap gun can go off and hurt somebody. So I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's another case of a celebrity with a lot of money and good and power being able to get away with, in a sense, murder, and I wish he would be held responsible to a degree, but like I said, I don't know enough about the case, and I don't think we're getting the whole truth regardless on all ends. So, it is what it is. Hopefully, if justice was served, it was served, but you can't bring back her family. I mean, you can't bring her back. Her family needs some kind of compensation for it in some way. And I think that I'd be very upset if it was one of my family members, regardless of who it is, that they're just letting them go. People got in trouble for this. And since those people got in trouble, why isn't Alec Baldwin allowed to walk and go do a reality TV show? I don't understand. It's one of the things I just don't understand about the system.
I don't know if this was the prosecutor that you were talking about, because I believe two dropped out, but the one that sounds like it is, or it could be something similar, she actually dropped out on the day that this motion was put in place because the evidence was discovered that morning. And she was actually on the side, I don't want to say on the side of the defense, but because the prosecutors filed that evidence under another case number, she said that doesn't agree with my morals.
Yeah, that was the one.
So it's interesting. I feel like there's a lot of different things at play, like on both sides, that are wrong. Like you said, you shouldn't be pointing a prop gun at anyone. Like, common sense, you know what I mean? But also I just feel like the way it was handled on the prosecution side, like they did not do a good job. So it could have been a like a layup for them, you know what I mean? And they kind of messed it up. So
no, I agree.
Yeah. Corey, what do you think?
I think it's about culpability, and at some level, like for sure, nothing will bring the family back. I don't know particularly that the family is upset at Alec Baldwin if they don't feel that he is. I mean, if they're closer to the situation, they don't feel he was as culpable. He's the celebrity that we all know, so he's the one that we're like, oh, he's got to be responsible. And I think he has some level of culpability because he was a producer. That's the part where he gets sucked into it, in my opinion. My opinion of the man himself is Rocky, because I've loved many of his movies. I loved The Shadow. The new Beetlejuice coming out would have been awesome to see him return for that. And I don't want to see anybody's life destroyed. And I think somewhere inside him, the fact that he pulled the trigger and killed somebody is eating something inside him. But he also has those recordings talking to his daughter the way that he talked to her, and he's had many incidents like that. And when this whole thing happened, as a producer, I saw no level of him going out and being like, man, I got to take responsibility for this. He was like a little kid that was like, no, it was that little girl. No, it was that guy. No, it was, that really turned me off to supporting him. But on the same token, I have to take a step back and be like, yeah, but how culpable was he? And in my opinion, there's some level of culpability because he was a producer, because we'd heard they were cutting corners, things of that nature. And like David mentioned, Steven Spielberg's well known for doing huge set pieces, tons of guns. And for many, many years, he's very well known for being on top of all of that. Right. And the funny thing is, earlier on for him, he was very well known for coming in, ahead of schedule and under budget. And this was a good thing for Spielberg. So he was capable of cutting corners and doing things without ever sacrificing what was necessary for the safety of his actors and the people involved. Right. So you're capable of doing low budget without running into this. So he's culpable. So I'm curious on the court side of things. He's not so him pulling the trigger, so now he's not guilty of involuntary manslaughter. But I wonder if later he can still have it, like if there's going to be more to this as far as his involvement as a producer of the show. And maybe that's why the judge didn't allow that for this. Maybe the fact that he produced the movie had nothing to do with him being the one who pulled the trigger, but he may have responsibility and culpability as the producer who was cutting these corners, bringing in inexperienced people, and things of that nature. I haven't heard what David was saying about him playing with the gun and stuff. Of course, that's horrendous. It's obviously the dumbest thing, right? There's all, even like you said, even when you go to the shooting range, there's so many rules about handling a gun that for a fact is completely empty. There's still a million rules about how you handle that, where you put it, where you point it, and you pretend always like that gun is loaded all the time. But I also understand he was pointing at the camera, and it was supposed to be a shot where he's firing at the camera. But for almost 20 years now, we've been using digital technology to add the flash and everything else. I'm not really sure why he needed something that could actually fire in the first place, other than the fact that they were cutting corners. They weren't using the proper equipment and stuff. And I think he's very culpable on that side. And I agree with David. I don't always agree with David, but I agree with him on this one, that he used, he is used as a celebrity. He's our target, but also as a celebrity, he tried to toss everything away from himself. And I lost absolutely had no respect for him on that. And then I started seeing the facts. I'm like, man, it really does sound like in his position that day, he's not, it wasn't, it was a shock. It hurt him. It was all these things, but how many corners did you cut? How many games did you play in advance? You know what I mean? So that's my feelings on that.
Those are all good points. I don't know though if they could bring charges up on the production side with him necessarily, like if he would be the main defendant, only because it was dismissed with prejudice. But I'm not sure like how in the nitty gritty, like what that applies to. You know what I mean? But that's something curious to definitely look into. I'm probably
if it's like criminal negligence or negligence or whatever, it would be the team of producers. It wouldn't just be.
Yeah, very interesting.
I wonder if that's going to come up too, and that's still something he's going to have to face. I don't know. That I haven't seen.
Worth looking into. Brana, how about you?
So 3 things, but first of all, it's an awful tragedy, and I don't think you could bring it up again, charges against him for the same crime. But I did meet Alec Baldwin in a coffee shop very briefly, and he seemed like a humble person, but that really means nothing. Also, I think, the producer credit is pretty ubiquitous for actors to get for doing nothing on their films once they've reached a certain level. So I don't really think that gives him much power or responsibility, or even that he was even acting as a producer at all. And then, I think it is very serious what the prosecution did, and they probably messed up the entire case by not being forthcoming with evidence. I mean, that's like a very serious thing.
Yeah. And especially, in the times we're in now, which I don't want to get too much into, but that's just like, it just kind of emphasizes everything that they didn't turn in what they were supposed to. And it's just a bad look, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. No, good point. I didn't even think about that too, with like actors getting production credits. Oh, yeah, Eugenia.
Yeah, can I add something? Like
Yeah.
that makes me angry so much. People always want to get a credit, but if you get a credit for something, you have to step up and do the job. Don't you think so?
Yeah, no, those are both two different sides of the same coin. Like, yeah, he might have got a credit for nothing, but then he should have done his job to protect the safety of those around him if he had that production credit. Those are both very good points. Jeff, let's round it out with you.
Okay, so first of all, my heart goes out to the family. Justice was not served. Second, he should be held accountable. And we can't make excuses because he's a celebrity. He's an influencer. He's out in the forefront. He's supposed to be making a difference. And if he does things that are not in line with what he's supposed to be doing, he should be held accountable for that. We cannot make an excuse for that. That person is gone because he was not doing right protocol. We can't make excuses for that. And the family's still grieving, and it was thrown out. So to me personally, he may feel the wrath from what happened, but he got away with it. So how is he going to ever change from what he did if he got away with what he did? That's my opinion. That's how I look at it. I look at it in a different mindset, because you got to think about it. If it was the average person, that court case would have went forward. And I feel like it didn't go forward because of the money. But he's in high position already. Everybody knows him. He should be held accountable.
You know what shocks me is how I guess my personality, regardless of what my belief system is, if I knew that I was involved in something that caused somebody to lose their life, I would feel that I owe it to them in any way, shape, or form to let them know, hey, this is really bad. I'm really sorry for what happened. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. I don't think that I mean, I didn't have anything to do with it, but either way, my heart goes out to you. We've got 6 people here right now that are saying our heart goes out to those people in that family. I never heard Alec Baldwin do that one time. Now, maybe I may be wrong, but I've never seen it. I've never seen him try to help it. It could be a case of his lawyer said, shut your mouth, don't say a word, don't do anything, because if you offer apologies, then you're thinking that you're guilty. But as a human being, and where I come from, and I agree with you 100%, is the fact that if I was a part of it, I'm going to feel that, my heart goes out. I got to do something to make this right. In any sense, if there's a way I can make it right, let me do that. I don't feel that he has. And like you guys said, I didn't even know he was doing a reality TV show right now. How do you do that and not feel guilty that you're out there still working, still doing what you love doing, while everybody else in the world is suffering because you killed somebody off, or you were part of something.
Making money off of the tragedy is what that is.
Yeah, making money off the tragedy.
I did see him. He said and did a lot of that with the family. But like I said, and it was an accident, but it was a preventable accident.
Yes.
Right. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like I said, it's kind of what you're saying. I did not see him step forward publicly anyways and take any real responsibility. It was just passing it off to everybody else. I think
it's always somebody else's fault, but not mine.
At least in the public image, that definitely hurt him. That definitely stung him huge, which that's on him. That's 100% his fault. That's 100% his attitude, his personality, his reaction. He's the little kid that broke something and ran away rather than, you know what I mean? Or to take it more extreme, he's the hit and run. The hit and run that drives away, and instead of going to the police and doing everything you can to make up for it, just take off and act like, no one's ever going to know.
Lawyers say that all the time. Never, ever, ever. If you are the one that's being sued, never take the stand in your defense, because they will pick you apart. And they say this to people all the time. I think it sucks. I mean, that's why I'm glad I'm not a lawyer, because my morals would never allow me to be able to say something to something like that. Like, don't say a word, because somebody's going to pick you apart and you might look guilty. The bottom line is that's a field that I don't have enough knowledge in, and it never behooves me to that people can get away with that. So
yeah.
Can I add to that? Just that's for me like a kind of a showing of narcissistic personality, because you can see him crying, walking out of the court, and then he was smiling the next day. If you research the whole obviously
he's an actor.
Yes, and that's like being in Hollywood, like that drives me crazy. I think we should stop celebrating narcissistic personalities, and I think it is part of American culture, unfortunately, and we should all develop critical thinking, right?
I do want to bring up though, and then I think we need to move on because we spent almost a half hour on this one, but it's a great topic though. That everyone says it's because he's a celebrity that this happened. I don't think it's necessarily that he's a celebrity. I think it's because he has the money to afford the lawyers that can pick apart this kind of info. I don't think it's just because this person's a celebrity they got away with it. However, it could be like the richest guy on earth and we don't know who he is. He would have the money to hire the lawyers to pick apart this info, because at the end of the day, the reason why it was dismissed was on the failure of the prosecutor's end. It wasn't because of anything Alec did himself. You know what I mean? That there was, not that I know he didn't bribe anyone, like, you know what I mean? And if he did, that's a whole other story. But
that makes it worse.
I know.
When you say, like, because he have the money, so he can get the right lawyer that can flip the conversation to fit him. So
that's what I'm getting at. Like, it's just very flawed.
That's the thing I deal with. Like, there's no accountability. I don't care if you have the money. If you did it, just own up to it and say, you know what? I messed up. Forgive me. Apologize to the people and be very disheartened what happened, because that, to me, letting it go, those people have not got closure on that situation. If they don't bring that back, in which they're not, they'll never get closure on that. That life is gone. I mean, you can't bring that back.
If it was any of us, they'd make an example of us.
Yeah, he should have been very much more like, dude, why did this happen? Blah, blah, blah. But I am the one that pulled the trigger. Yeah. And I have to live with that. And I killed because of that. And, like, that's what I've been saying all along, too. There was no.
Yeah, that's what I was
kind of getting at. His personality did not accept that he made a mistake or that he was going to have to make. It was like, run away.
Yeah. So. Yes, all great points. And I'm sure
publicly that's what I saw anyways. I don't know the man.
Right.
I don't know.
No, I think that's what we all can agree we saw publicly, at least. How do you call it? I was going to say, once the civil suit rolls around on this, I'm sure we'll bring it back up, because hopefully the family can get some sort of closure that way. But criminally, it was just dismissed. I want to talk about a story that's actually very close to home. So I am a Disneyland pass holder, and Disney is changing their DAS, Disability Access Service Pass, because too many people were abusing it. And people like me, unfortunately, who have disabilities, anxiety is covered under a disability under Title II of the ADA. And I don't mean it's just like, I'm anxious, I don't want to take a test tomorrow. Like, literally in certain situations, if I have a panic attack, I can shut down. My heart starts pumping. It's difficult for me to breathe. My blood pressure, like, there's actual physical health manifestations. And I always would tell the people when I would apply for DAS, I'm like, look, it's not that I don't want to wait for the length in time. It's just that I could wait 3 hours if I do it on a bench, and I can come back in line and just rejoin with a shorter amount of people. But even sadder. So people like me are getting turned away who really have these issues, and people who don't fall under the autism spectrum, because that's really what they're trying to get it towards, they're getting turned away. So this is people like, I know someone who is a Disney influencer, I believe she has MS. She's being turned away because they're telling her to rent a wheelchair. And then this woman who I shared the story with you, Charisma, sorry, I can't read. I'm gonna butcher her last name, Mangahas. She has, I forgot, I think it was Lou Gehrig, I'm not sure, but she has a trach in her her throat, and she's in a wheelchair, and she was declined these services that would just help her get to the line quicker, because obviously she's like, she can't, it's taking up space, it's a wheelchair, common sense. She was told just to buy their Genie Pass instead of getting the accommodations that she deserves. And it goes on and on. So I want to know, do you agree with these new restrictions? What are your thoughts on this? I just got to take a deep breath out, because it's very hard for me to bring up anxiety and say that it is a disability, because part of me feels guilty, because I am neurodivergent, but I present as neurotypical because I'm social, I'm able to hold a job and things like that. But unfortunately, there are people out there that ruin it, and that's what makes me more hesitant to disclose that information publicly. So this is just a really interesting thing that they put into action, and I wanted your thoughts on it. So Jeff, I'll bring it over to you first.
I knew you was gonna call me. That's funny. So I feel like that's what in my opinion, y'all. I feel like that's where the world is going. There's no compassion about anything anymore. Everything is about quick money. If it's going to hinder that, it's just crazy the way that the world is going and how we're moving. And I think it's wrong. I think you should think about those people with their issues, because it really makes a difference, because they're dealing with stuff that we don't necessarily deal with. And I feel like it's very disheartening that they're throwing out those things that really make a difference. So those people that that should not stand in the line, and they have crippling issues or they can't stand up. I see people with elderly people in wheelchairs and stuff. My thing is, I want to let them go first. You just don't know what they're dealing with, their mindset. So to take that away, to me, is just another part of what's really going on in the world. People don't realize it. It's just everything is just it's no compassion. It's just crazy.
You're right.
Is.
Yeah, and you made a great point. You don't know what someone else is going through. I always say, like, not all disabilities are visible. You know what I mean? You just don't know. There's also chronic illnesses and things like that. Corey, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Even after reading that, a lot of it doesn't make too much sense to me, because my initial thought is like, I know people take advantage of this also. And I would like to believe they were trying. So if people are taking advantage, and Disney's policy is, well, we're going to stop doing this because too many people are taking advantage, does that mean the lines have gotten bigger because of this? Or I just, in the end of the day, I don't feel like Disney's doing it for the right reasons. I do not think that's the case. I've just been watching them make decision after decision after decision for probably the last 15 to 20 years that has pushed so many people away from it. Like, I used to be a season pass holder too. I literally cannot afford that. I got 4 kids, which part of that, obviously, life choices. But regardless, like the fact that we're joking about David's European trip, and I'm like, no, I stayed home because that's like a Disneyland year-long passes for me and my kids, right?
No, that's right.
I mean, it's up there. So they got rid of the fresh fruits and vegetables. They got rid of so many good things. And then it was like, oh, you show up to Disneyland, we're going to make you, we anticipate that there's going to be large crowds. So we're going to make you park all the way down the street and shuttle you back up here instead of like first come, first serve. They started making so many poor decisions that are exactly like Jeff is saying. It's just money, and it's money. So I'm looking at it and going, yeah, people are probably trying to take advantage, but I don't feel like they're trying to protect people from being taken advantage. I feel like they're just doing it to get more people on the rides, get more tickets there, get more people. It doesn't feel like they're doing it for the right reasons.
They want them to buy, because it used to be that the fast pass was available for free for everyone, and now you have to pay for it. And it was like $10 a day at one point. It's now gone up to $30 on Sundays. It's like dynamic pricing. So you have a season pass, like if an example, like I have a season pass and this woman Charisma has a season pass. We're not fucking Genie. I go once a month. I think she has the higher pass. If you go to the park every week, you're not spending $30 on top of what you're spending for everything else. It's just ridiculous. And especially like we frequent these places to distract from the issues in our lives and to make us happy, when they're not giving people equal access to that. It's upsetting. Brana, what do you think?
Well, I think that they should be making the line shorter in general. I think that, I hate waiting in line. I don't know why there should be so many lines. Maybe make more rides and there'll be less lines. I also think that invisible disabilities are a big thing that people need to be aware of. And I know for employment that they're obligated, at least in theory, to make reasonable accommodations. So the sort of question is what's reasonable. But I do understand from a different perspective something like anxiety, because while there are like genetic predisposing factors and everything, some of the treatment is actually like small exposures. So I think in someone's mind they might discount it a little bit. So for things that are mental, I think there is a little bit of less compassion.
Yeah. And I always, like, when I would disclose, which they tell you, like, you don't have to disclose your medical history, but I always would be like, I'm on 3 different medications. And it's, like, sad that you have to disclose that just because it's not a physical thing. It's like you break your arm, you get a cast. Everyone knows you broke your arm. You break your brain, for lack of a better way to put it. It's inside your head, unless you're displaying some out there behaviors. Not many people are going to know what's truly going on inside. David, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, like Jeff said, we lack compassion in the world right now. I have a daughter that's got cerebral palsy. She's disability. Anytime we used to pay for the season passes too. It was a mortgage payment. It was like, I could not condone doing it. I especially couldn't condone it since my kids were at the age where they wanted, rides that were exciting, and they just weren't getting the same. I mean, I'll always love the imagination. I can love it. I can sit there and just enjoy that. They were at a point in their lives that didn't. I was like, dude, why am I wasting money on this? However, I thought that at first I was a little frustrated with the fast pass, because I was like, man, I thought we were going to be able to get to the front of the line with her. But I also felt guilty. And the reason I felt guilty is because even though my daughter has been through hell and back, if you look at her medical records this thick, and if you read it, you would think she's coming in a wheelchair, but she's overcome so many different trials and tribulations that, to me, I said, I've looked at it like, well, on the outside looking in, all these people are staring at us because, she doesn't look like she has too many problems, but she can't sit in a line like that all day. It's not fair to her. And so, I think it's a great thing to be able to have these fast pass where you can at least say, okay, come back at 4:00, come to the front of the line, we'll get you on. And people need to understand that. But the problem is there's too many idiots out there and selfish people that are taking advantage of it. It's like going to the grocery store and you see some guy riding on a wheelchair, those ride around wheelchairs, taking that from people, and he's just doing it because it's a funny thing to do, or hey, it's there, I can use it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at myself going, you know what, that's completely wrong. There was a time where I had, she had a tracheostomy for the first 5 years of her life. And everywhere we went, we had a handicap sign because, if we needed to get to our car and get out, we can do that. Well, I was always having to carry oxygen, and I had to carry the suction with me. And so I remember I'd get out of the car and put it in, and people were staring me down like, what are you doing? I mean, here I am, a young 20-year-old guy, I look like I'm fit. I just got out of the gym and I'm getting it out of a handicap sign. The first part of me is thinking, man, I see how this looks, but why would you think that I'm going to take advantage of it? That was when I was young and naive and didn't realize how many idiots out there take advantage of opportunities like that. And it's not fair. And I think what Disney is doing is punishing everybody because they want maximum top dollar.
Right.
You go to an amusement park, I'm going to use Magic Mountain in Santa Clarita, Six Flags Magic Mountain. When we go to it, we're thinking, man, this is one of those days. There's just not a lot of people here. This is awesome. We're going to be able to get a ride. We're going to do this. And you're standing in a 30-minute line with 50 people. And you're like, why is this 30 minutes? Well, look over there. There's 18 different carts on the track that are off to the side. And when you ask them, hey, why aren't we riding all those so we can all ride? They're like, oh, because it costs too much to ride all of them. That's they want a run of them. They want maximum money. Disney is unbelievable with how much money they make. You know, I mean, I guarantee you everybody that goes through there is probably close to $1,000 just the day that they go. How much money they're making, plus the movies, plus, you know, right now, I just read the other day that the Disney employees are going on strike in Orange County because of some laws, and they're going to want more money. Okay, good for them. Their union's getting in. But what does that mean for us? We're already paying wage. They want your firstborn when you sign up for that. I've said it all along. I'm not taking my granddaughters to Disneyland until they're old enough to remember it. You know, I have a buddy that he takes his daughter once every 2 weeks. It's great for him. She's going to have memories. My mom and dad took me to Disneyland back in the 70s, and they're like, oh yeah, we went to Disneyland when you were 3. I'm like, what? I don't remember that. You know, I don't remember that at all. You know, and you're like, well, you loved it. It was a great thing. I probably have a snip, you know, a little bit of memory of it, but it just the amount, the cost is overly cost. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And I think this is a case where they're punishing everybody so they can get maximum dollar, like Corey said. They're doing maximum dollar, and I think the answer should be, when you get caught and you know that somebody is taking advantage of it, instead of just kicking them out of the park, punish them like indefinitely. Make it so harsh on them that people are like, I don't know if it's worth getting caught.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be, I remember when we were kids and you see somebody hop on a line, I was like, oh my God, they're going to get arrested and thrown in prison. You know, now they hop in a line and they're like, hey, you get out of here. And they push them out of the park. They come right back in and let them back in. Or they just move them out. You can't ride now. It's like, the punishment's not worth it. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. And so they're punishing everybody. And there's people like in your case, you shouldn't have to go up to the line and tell everybody in there, hey, look at me. I got, you know, I have this and that. You shouldn't have to explain it. We should be able to look across the way and say, hey, they're getting on the ride. Hey, they have a reason. Either they're super rich and they paid it, and hey, more power to them, or they have a disability. And I think it's only fair that they get on that ride. I can wait one more cart. But you have too many idiots that do not give a rat's ass. All they are, we're a selfish society, whether we like it or not. And not only that, Disney, in my opinion, is the most selfish business out there, and they want you. They lie to you when somebody dies in the park, so that because we don't want to mess up the imagination. I mean, it's. I think the whole situation with Disney is ridiculous.
Yeah, I actually heard, because you had mentioned like people just being inconsiderate and whatever, when someone was explaining DAS to someone and they had said disability, someone was like, oh, my wife's pregnant, does she qualify? And listen, I'm not taking away from pregnancy. You're growing another person rent-free inside of you. Of course that takes a toll on your body, but by definition, if you are pregnant, you don't, like, your body's working correctly. So, and
you can't ride the ride anyways.
Yeah, exactly. It pissed me off. That comment pissed me off so much. And then I'm like, we are in a children's park. You cannot go all Staten Island on this man. Like, it's not worth it.
It's severely.
People are assholes.
What I was getting at is that it's severely mismanaged now. Severely. And it's so far away from Walt's original intentions and so far away from what it was when we were younger. And that's why Brana was bringing it up. It's interesting. She make more rides. There's way more rides now. In fact, since the last time I went, there's like 2 whole new lands that they've added on, way more rides, and yet the lines are worse than they were. And
they have so much construction at one time that when you go to the park, you're like, why is every ride shut down? Oh, they're fixing it. I was like, well, they could have warned me before I bought my ticket.
Well, you and I know from the haunted house, right, that a line is like, well, that's just natural. It's Disneyland. It's going to have these kind of lines. No, there are ways that you manage it. And Disney used to be world renowned for how well they managed lines, how well they managed the customer, how happy they made the customers, the things that they provided so that you were enjoying yourself while you were there, the accommodations they would make to anybody who needed accommodations, just like you're talking about. They are world famous because of all of this. And the little children that were handed the reins to the kingdom in the last 15 to 20 years have absolutely just run it into the ground as far as management. It's so poorly managed now. They have not been good stewards of the point and the idea of what Disney was.
If you ever have like 2 hours that you don't have anything on TV to watch and you're really struggling to find something, there's a YouTube channel called Defunct Land, and they like investigate like how theme parks work and whatever. And there's this brilliant video they did about how Disney broke the fast pass, and how the original way where you would pop your ticket in and get a ticket to come back was the best way and afforded everyone an equal chance at riding. But the Genie system actually made lines longer. So
Yeah.
it's a brilliant, brilliant watch. Eugenia, I want to get over to you before we switch topics.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, guys. I really, thank you for being vulnerable about the disability. And I can totally understand that. I think the mental health crisis is at the peak, in US right now. And I think it's not respected. Growing up personally on food lines, I know what the lines are about. I know how corrupt people are. I know about the 1% of, the corporation moving to like America. I did see a lot of times people are more respectful of, people who have disabilities, but at the same time, it can be used to a bad disadvantage and greed and, whatever is human nature. So it is terrible to watch. My daughter wants to go for her 13th birthday again to Disneyland, and we did spend over $1,000 on a hotel. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, we can go to Tokyo. I can teach you literally a different language, different culture. I can educate you. There's a different fantasy. So I think it is for all of us to educate ourselves what it is about in the first place. We're trying to escape to a fantasy world, but what is a fantasy world? Sometimes a fantasy world is something that's not good for you as well. It can be drugs or things that, give you a release really fast. And I understand now in this culture, people want to escape reality really in a fast way, but then they unknowingly pay even more for that. And I think it is it is unfortunate that it's happening, that Disney is a 1% in Hollywood and everywhere else in this world that is in domination. But it's very educational to know that, and research. And thank you so much for providing all the information about that.
Yeah. No, good point. Like you could walk into the park. I go once a month, except when my pass isn't able, like I have blackout dates, but every month I have to factor in when I go to Disney, I like mini budget. I'm like, okay, it's after my discount, it's like $25 to park. It used to be $25 period to park. Now after my discount, it's $25 to park. And then if I want to eat food around the park, or, I stopped buying myself souvenirs. It's kind of the novelty wore off. But yeah, it's an expensive endeavor. Like when we went with my niece, because my best friend is a pass holder and two of his daughters are under the age where they can still get in. So we went with her recently, and it's like, the kid wants this and she's so freaking cute and I don't see her all the time. Like, of course you want to buy her something. Or, kid wants ice cream. Like, you don't want to be a jerk if they're being good all day and they deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. It's hard, walk in and you spend over $1,000 and you come home with Mickey ears and Crocs and whatever you need.
Or you get face painted and go on a water ride right after that.
Yeah. Sweat it off in this humidity, or this heat rather. You sweat it off. In Florida, they got the humidity. But that's another story for another day.
I tell you what, speaking of Florida, if I ever go to Universal Orlando again, the only way to do it is to fork up the money and do the VIP pass.
Oh yeah, they have that out here too.
And the looks that we got every time we walk to the front, I just look at them. I was like, man, my face is not that recognizable. So they're over there looking like, who the hell is this guy? He must have some kind of a disability. And I'm just smiling. I'm like, hey, how you doing? I felt guilty, but it was so amazing. I would never take anybody to Orlando, Florida, Hollywood, to think that I'm just going to go in and try to enjoy it. You'll never be able to do everything you did. Sometimes you got to fork out that money if you want to have fun.
They were
But
in
sorry.
the line. And like, that's David from the FNL Network talk show. I know
Right?
him. I wanted to end on a lighter note because I found this fascinating study that people actually feel feelings of grief when their favorite TV show is either canceled or ended. And I had just watched The Big Bang Theory. Like, I've seen episodes here and there before, but back in May, I decided to start it and end it. And I just ended this morning and I was crying at the last episode. Well, number one, I'm like a big softie and I'll cry at anything on TV. And just, it was so beautiful the way it all turned out. But now I'm like, now my journey with this group of people who don't really exist, but the characters are so heartwarming, like, it's over. And I felt a little blue, I have to admit. So I want your thoughts. Like, can you relate to this? Do you think it's a thing? And maybe, like, what are some shows you were sad to see go? What about you, Eugenia?
Well, it's interesting research for me. It's all about the brain. It's like the way we fall in love, right? You have hormones that are causing this feeling of like high and low, oxytocin and everything else. And I think it's the same way with mass culture and just being, in Hollywood. And I understand how the machine works and how they get you hooked up on that. And I think it is an addiction in a way. Being addicted to a show or anything else or a person is the same thing. I love, stories is how we connect. Obviously, storytelling is the reason why, as humans, we crave that. It is normal to feel sentimental, but I think it's understandable to just transfer that feeling to something else. I think I'm too much of a scientist. I know how the things work behind the machine. So I know how they make the stories work and how they hook you up and like how, they create these characters that you really care and then they kill them off and everything else. It is understandable. I think at the end of it, for me, we all crave connection. That's why, like, thank you for guys being here. Thank you for everybody who watches the show. I think we all crave it, even though we're in different places, in different boxes, we're still, it is beautiful to have this discussion. But I also think it is very healthy to transfer whatever grief you have. It is kind of your hormone and you can transfer it to something else. There's so many things to do. I think it's a healthy way to deal with it.
Yeah, I like crafting. That's my go-to. Since you're such a fan of science, did you watch The Big Bang Theory?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's a cute show. It's a really cute show. David, what about you?
It might not look like it, but I have a tremendous amount of empathy for humans, and I understand stories. And there, when Vikings got me, because when they killed Ragnar off, I was like, what the hell? You can't do a show without Ragnar anymore. I'm like,
Spoiler alert, man.
I
Spoiler
was-
alert.
Spoiler alert. I'm
Oh,
like, I don't know.
sorry. I
Spoiler alert.
forgot. I thought it, well, I
like
tend
a
to watch
10-year-old
all these
show by
shows
now,
10 years
Wow.
later, so, or, okay, there, either you live under a rock or you've seen, you haven't seen Game of Thrones and never will. But I watched that, and when they killed Ned at the first season, I refused to watch it again. I was like, oh, hell no, you can't kill my favorite character. I can't do this anymore. And sometimes in these shows, there's a character that you understand, you feel his empathy, you feel like you're living the dream with them, or you're living his story or her story. And when they kill him off, I get pissed off at the writers. Like, really, you could have done so much more. Why did you have to do this to us? And it just shocks me. But I have to admit, when I'm really into a storyline, I'm like, I watched a lot of different shows, and when they start to lose it after a while, there's an ongoing argument between Corey and I that because Corey's a writer, he has all these ideas. Walking Dead came out, I was like, oh my God, Corey, you got to watch this show. And he's pissed because he already had this idea in his head. He was going to write it and he was going to do it.
Not
And
that one.
Corey was like, no, hell no, I can't watch it. He didn't want to watch it based on that. I was like, oh, this is awesome. But after, like the 10th season, I got to a point where I'm like, come on, man. Just like, can we just stop with this show? Like, we got to end it somewhere. Some people didn't want it to end. Why is it the shows, they'll either play out their welcome, like a SpongeBob episode where he rips his pants, and it's just like, okay, this is just not ending, and then there's shows that like I can't remember the name of it. There was a time traveling show that came out. It was cheesy. It was a cheesy show, but I loved it. I love time travel, and they were going back to different times, and they had to make sure that history still played out. And then they canceled it because they weren't getting enough views. And I'm thinking, God, why would you cancel such a great idea and nobody comes up with it? Somebody will come up with a good idea, and they're like, oh my God, they're not only doing an idea, but they're trying to push their agenda. And I hate that. Just let me fall into a storyline. Let me love it and enjoy it. I'm watching a show right now that I absolutely love, but the last episode put me. I turned to Veronica and I was like, okay, is this just getting stupid? Are they starting to run out of ideas, or does this make sense in the next episode or next season? So I could see how people get totally into their shows, and love it, but it's very rare that a show comes out that's so amazing you're just pissed off when it's done, because usually if it's really super amazing, back to the Disneyland thought process, oh, they're going to maximize their money, so let's just put some stupid story out. Yellowstone got ridiculous. It's just, I can go on and on about it, but yeah, I could see how people get emotional. I got emotional on some, like, damn, I got emotional on the video game Red Dead Redemption. At the very end of the movie, I was like almost breaking in tears when they came out with the song that, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, country song. I'm like riding a horse going, man, the story's over. And I turned around, I was like, now what? Like, what do we do? Like, you can't end it like that, So yeah, I can see how people get emotionally attached to it, especially somebody like me, whether it looks like it or not. I have a lot of empathy for people. And, I'm that guy in the movie theater going, oh, man, like my allergies kicking in. Like, what the heck? Blinking over and over like, okay, don't do this. Don't do this. Thank God the movie theater's dark.
Yeah, that's me all the time. No, you brought up a good point about, like, I call it running into like the cycle of the story where it's like it's just run its course, because they do that a lot in wrestling, and like, knock on wood, those just keep going. Like, we don't get seasons finale. Like, you get a new episode every Monday, Friday with WWE. But some of the storylines, because there's multiple in there, I'm like, oh my God, we're doing this again. Like, I can tell you exactly we watched this last week. So yeah. I totally get it. And then there's shows like Freaks and Geeks, which was brilliant, but that was a one and done because of ratings. So yeah, totally.
We're on that show.
What was that?
Dave and I were on the first 2 or 3 episodes, the pilot and the first 2 or 3 episodes.
No way! I loved that show.
It was a fun show.
That was a good show. Hey, believe it or not, they got a lot of freaks and geeks that showed up at those shows too.
My ex looks just like James Franco, so like we would get that wherever we went, and we'd like, some girl would be like, "Are you James Franco?" And I'm like, "No."
They looked a lot like James Dean then, huh?
Corey, what about you?
Yeah, I'm all over the place on this one because I love it. Obviously, I absolutely love movies, like David said, writing, theater. I just love being creative. And like Eugenia was saying, I understand that it's such an inherent aspect of the human condition. It's something we absolutely need. And you could think, what is the old saying, David? You could think a soldier, if you're, basically if you're, I'm forgetting it. I'm actually mixing it with another one. But basically the idea is that, wow, I completely lost my train of thought. That almost never happens to me, but I completely lost my train of thought. Bring me back, Dave. Where are we at right now?
You were talking about, you had an idea about, you're a writer. You write a lot of movie scripts. And then somebody else stole your script and put it out there before you get out there.
Okay, now this is you throwing things out there and adding things to the whole situation. No, I really did lose where I was going with that. I do apologize for that, guys. Why don't you ask someone else for a second? I'll get back on track here.
Yeah, so I didn't have a thought on that. Let's take it over to you.
Thanks,
did
Dave.
you say me?
We're off on another track.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, I feel like in a good way, maybe I'm really obsessed with myself, my goals, and creating. So I write and I do things like that. So I'm a little bit less into TV shows and stuff than I used to be. I really like comedies now. During COVID, I got super into Frasier, which is a little bit before my time, but I found it hilarious. I watched like the entire 10 seasons or whatever it was. But I didn't feel like super sad, but when I was younger, I was really into series books, and I would feel that sort of connection with the characters. I think when I was 13, I read Clan of the Cave Bear, the series, and I really got into that. Also Damages with Glenn Close was like something that I really liked. So yeah, so not so much anymore, but before I really did feel like the loss of, the end, the big end.
Yeah. And you and David both brought up like when there's really a character that you can relate to. And it's nice to see a little part of you represented on screen, which I think is also why Big Bang meant so much to me, because Bernadette, she's like short and angry all the time. Like that's me. And then Amy, who like, she just wants to be the cool girl, but she's the nerd. I'm like, oh, like there's people who are like me on screen. And when you see their adventures over and you see them get what they want and it's so happy, but then it's like over, it's like, oh, bummer. Corey, did you remember?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah,
Okay.
I was just really what I was getting at is there is an emptiness, right? There's an emptiness that shows up when the show ends or when the video game ends or whatever it is. And that emptiness is even worse to me. Like when I did a play, like watching a show and then the show ending, but being in a show and then the show ending, you were really with these people and stuff. But you're with the real people and not the characters as much. So it is tougher because it's almost like you're never going to see that friend again when you're watching the show, because you're like, I'm never going to see the rest of the adventures of this person or someone that you get hooked on. But to me, I try to stay away from as much TV as I can, because it's like, that's it. Like if I'm going to start a new TV show, that's my life for the next 3 or 4 weeks. I prefer movies still because I get it wrapped up in a little bow. You got the whole story is going to wrap itself up. I don't have to find out next week. And so I can definitely get sad when the shows end. But then there's ones that to me, like it's a comfort food for me to watch. A lot of the shows like Home Improvement, a lot of the sitcoms, right? Friends. We can just like in our house, we literally put on Friends. David knows, you put on Friends, The Office, Parks and Recs. I Love Lucy. I mean, it goes back, right? You could just throw those old ones on while we're all working, while we're all doing our thing. And it's kind of like music, music that just comforts you. You're hearing it all day, or something you're cooking for dinner that's a comfort food that you're smelling all day. You don't have to actively participate, but there's something about it. And that speaks to how much it meant to us in the first place to have watched it when it was brand new or whatever. But some of those shows stay with you so much that it is kind of sad, like you said, but then it's so comforting to just revisit it. And it's the sitcoms that do the silly sitcoms for me are the ones that I find the most comfort in. So
Superstore was another great sitcom. And then when I had the last episode, I also cried. I was like, this is great. They're all getting what they wanted. I love
Which
this
one?
for them. What was that?
Which one?
Superstore.
I don't think I ever saw that. I don't think.
Oh my God, it was so cute. It was like they all worked in like a Walmart type store, and it was the employees and like who was weird, who had this going on. It was really, really cute.
Oh, really? I never even heard that. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I think it was on NBC. I think it's still on Hulu. I rewatched it during the pandemic, but that was also special to me because when I lived with my family and I would come home from work, that my mom would be going through her DVR and she would be watching what she missed of Superstore, and I would just sit and watch it with her until I was ready to go up to my room. So, I think that's also part of why I watched it during the pandemic, to feel like I had my family here and I was so far from them. Yeah. It's nice how TV can do that for us.
I worked during the entire pandemic. I had to work the entire time. So I keep hearing everybody saying during the pandemic, I'm like, man, I didn't have that period where I just got to go and catch up with everything like that. That would have been nice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Jeff, bring us home.
Okay. So I don't do a lot of series, y'all, but I do want to tell you this. I don't know what it is, but the Hallmark stories. The holiday. I don't know why they make me teary. I don't know if it's magical or what, but I love those shows.
That's their goal when they make those shows.
It's weird.
How can we make everybody cry?
Like, what is it? And I want more because it just gives you this feeling. It's just weird. It's just, and I just really draw to them during the holidays. I don't know. I watch them series after series after series.
Next time you're in LA, I gotta bring you to my neck of the woods because the Hallmark building is like a few blocks from me.
Oh, I love
So
those.
we gotta bring you to the Hallmark building.
The girls in her family watch those, and I'm just like, why do you guys keep watching stuff? Because you're bawling all day long. Stop. It sounds depressing.
Are you one of those like Christmas in July? Like I'll put the Christmas Hallmark movies on in July or like any time of year, or are you just Christmas and Christmas?
It's Christmas. It's just, for me, it's this Christmas. It's just like when they, those Hallmarks and those magical moments where you kind of figure it out and you see that they're going to connect. But when they connect, you're just like, what is that? Why am I tearing up? What is going on? It just brings you in and just like, it's this moment that you have. And I love it. It's good.
Yeah, it's like any sports movie. You know exactly what's gonna happen. You know exactly what you're going for.
Yes.
But you're like, I know they're gonna get together before I even start this movie. But those moments.
Watching a Hallmark movie is like
right?
watching the beginning of Up over and over and over.
Watching what?
So watching a Hallmark movie is like watching the beginning of Up over and over. Oh
yeah. Oh no. That was another one. I was watching that with my ex, and after, I think that's like the first 10 minutes of it, and I had to make him pause because I was crying so hard. Why did you show me this?
That's a brilliant intro. That was a brilliant intro.
Yeah.
Really
that was the whole movie right there. We didn't have to do the rest.
It overshadowed that movie. It really overshadowed the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Big Hero 6 is another one that like I just cannot watch. Baymax is one of my favorite Disney characters, and I cannot watch Big Hero 6 because it will ruin the rest of my day. Like it will ruin the rest of my day.
I remember it being fun though. I don't remember that one being as depressing.
It's fun. I don't want to spoil anything. I'll tell you when we're off camera. But there were just a couple things that I was like, they really
want. Yeah, don't be a David and spoil all the shows. But if you haven't seen Vikings by now, you've been living under a rock.
Oh man, guys. Well, that was a really good episode. So happy to see everyone here, especially people I haven't seen in a few minutes. Eugenia and Jeff, it had been a little bit there. Thank you, Brana, David, Corey, too. And thank you at home for tuning into another episode of the FNL Network Talk Show. We will be with you again next week, so catch us then. Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.